In the 1880s, the London and North Western Railway's main line between Manchester and Leeds was becoming increasingly overloaded. One of the various solutions to the problem was the construction of what became known as the Leeds New Line, a dual-track relief line that runs through 8 stations, 2 tunnels and a viaduct being built between 1895 and 1900. The line starts at Heaton Lodge Junction and runs for just over 13 miles to rejoin the Huddersfield line at Farnley, just outside the city of Leeds. Control of the line was taken over by the London, Midland and Scottish Railways upon the grouping of 1923, and then entered British Railway ownership by 1948. The line would slowly lose all of its passenger traffic by 1965, with parts of the line being closed in 1966, but it remained still connected to the Huddersfield line at Farnley. Leading up to the 5th of November 1977, workers of the Central Electricity Generating Board were threatening industrial action. One potential outcome of this would be the loss of power to Leeds signal box, which controlled the lines around the city, including Farnley Junction. As a precaution against this, British Railway brought in a mobile generator. However, the voltage provided to the signaling power distribution system was lower than normal, which led to a number of failures in the indication of track circuits. These had to be fixed one by one until the main fault was traced back to a transformer rectifier in the line-side cabinet near Holback East Junction, called Location 17. At 10:30 p.m. on the 5th of November 1977, 2 technicians arrived at the box bringing 2 spare transformer rectifiers with them. The first of these was incompatible, while the second was compatible. It was too big to fit inside the cabinet. As a temporary solution, while a smaller one was found, the second one was placed on the floor of the cabinet and connected up with wire leads. While this was happening, 2 trains were waiting on either side of Farnley Junction. The first of these was the 8:40 p.m. Liverpool Lime Street to Hull passenger service designated 1 Echo 89, a 4-class 124 DMU weighing 153 tonnes, with 29 passengers and 2 crew members aboard. It was waiting at signal L31 on the Huddersfield Down line, approximately 790 yards from the crossover at Farnley Junction. The second train was the 9:50 p.m. York to Shrewsbury mail train designated 1 Mike 41. This train was 10 vehicles being pulled by a Class 47 diesel locomotive number 47402. In total, the train weighed 335 tonnes and had 20 people on board. This train was waiting at signal L36 on the Huddersfield Up line, which stands just before the crossover at Farnley Junction. Back at location 17, the technicians would make a serious error. They had accidentally wired the rectifier in the wrong way, which amongst other things reversed the polarity of the crossover point motor, causing it to open. It also caused the indicator of the crossover to report that it was closed when in fact it was open. This went unnoticed by the signal box as the lights in the indication panel were flashing out of correspondence. What happened next is disputed. According to the signalman, at about 11:10 p.m, the technicians called them to tell them that the work was completed. The technicians, however, claimed that no such call was ever made, and they were still working at the time and had not yet tested the system. Either way, the track indication panel in the signal box was reset, which incorrectly showed that the crossover was closed. Then the signalman allowed both trains to proceed and the DMU set off. The mail train, however, did not. Going back in time a little bit, the mail train's assistant driver, Mr. B. Mountain, was standing at signal L36, trying and failing to get in contact with the signal box, when he heard the point open. He took a step back and looked up at the signal and saw that it had cleared to green. But the route indication was for the main line and not for the branch. Mountain at first thought that such an irregular occurrence must be connected to the signalling faults and that the technicians were probably testing the system. Not believing he was in any danger, he walked back to the locomotive and talked to driver Shaw, who had also seen what Mountain had seen. Then, about a minute after it was released, the DMU appeared, running straight for the crossover and onto the opposite line. Mountain managed to shout a warning and jump to safety, before the DMU slammed into the front of the mail train at around 35 miles an hour. Driver Shaw of the mail train died instantly upon impact. Driver Watson of the DMU would die 3 hours later from his injuries. The DMU's guard and 4 of its passengers would require medical treatment, along with the guard and 5 workers from the mail train, but there would be no further fatalities. A report into the accident by Major C.F. Rose was published in March of 1979. In his conclusions, he focuses on the disputed second call from the technicians to the signal box and whether or not they told the signalman that they had completed their work, as well as the possibility of the signalman confusing the unanswered calls from Assistant Driver Mountain for the technicians. While he was inclined to believe the signalman's version of events, he was ultimately unable to say which set of circumstances took place on that day. In his recommendations, Rose suggested that calls from the signal boxes to be recorded and that a generator was to be installed at lead signal box. He also recommended changes to rules on how failures in signal equipment are dealt with, and also suggestions to look at how safety can be improved on mail trains. Today, the new lead line sits completely abandoned, with its track being lifted in the 90s.